Well, hey, let's get us going here, my friends. Give me just a minute. All right. Well, hey, everyone. Happy Math Crush Monday. Hope you're doing well. It is like officially back to school season. Did some trainings today. Shout out to my Eastern Carver friends. Good to see you guys today and get started with our math instruction for the year. So if you're still enjoying summer, you just keep on enjoying. If you are having to head back to school, I'm glad you're here. We are specifically talking tonight about parent support with math expressions. How do we help parents get on board and understand what it is that we're doing in the math classroom and just some supports that we can put in place for them. So I am going to be sharing many different resources tonight. Anything I share that you want, you just need to put a comment below, name what it is, and we will send you a DM with that download or that link. And then also know too that I do full parent presentations for communities, schools, etc. So if you're looking for an actual parent presentation, we can do that as well. So tonight though is really just what are all the resources we have available. I'm going to explain some things and then move up from there. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Shannon Keebler. I'm the moderator of this group, and I'm just glad that you're here. So here we go. We're going to talk about parent support, and I'm going to share this screen of ours. If you're here, tell me in the chat, tell me what grade you're in, where you're watching from. I'm going to do that one more time to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. There we go. Okay, so when we talk about parent support, I think there's a lot that we can do to help parents. I actually got several of these descriptors, if you will, from Dr. Hilary Kreisberg, who wrote the book Adding Parents to the Equation. It's a great read if you're needing something to help really bring in your community of parents as you're adopting math expressions, or maybe you're just going through a rough time of readapting after pandemic teaching and learning. Okay, so here's some things I think will help us understand what our parents are going through. One is, of course, that they are feeling a little bit intimidated. Learning math in a totally different way means that they don't believe they can be helpful, right? So I think sometimes we think like our parents just don't want to help. Our parents don't even help with the homework. They don't even tell their kids to do homework. Or we get the, instead of the no involvement, we get the over involvement where the parent is basically like doing it for their kids, or they're being kind of loud about their opinions about quote unquote new math, or any of those things, right? So here's the hidden emotions behind a lot of times what our parents are feeling. So that idea of I'm intimidated, right? So if there's something new and I don't know it, then I don't think I can help my child. So therefore I'm going to put my defenses up, right? I'm either going to completely back away and not help at all because I don't want to acknowledge that maybe I don't know this, and or I am going to put up a front. Okay, parents are frustrated. I don't know about you, but it does not feel good to feel like you can't help your kid on their second grade math homework, right? So that when you feel unintelligent, there's some shame that goes with that. And then there's just like, just frustrated, like I should help my kid with kindergarten homework. I should help my kid with fourth grade homework. So there's a feeling of frustration, worry, right? Where a lot of parent populations, depending on even our cultures and whatnot, they're very concerned that our students are not going to perform, that they're not going to do well in life if they don't do well with this math. And so they're anxious. They're anxious that their children are going to fail, that their children aren't going to be in high levels of math later on. So those are the parents that you see really pushing their kids in those after school programs and Khan Academy and you name all of those other programs, and they're pushing that because they're worried, like, is what you're doing in the classroom enough for my student? Okay. Then of course that they're confused. I could really see this. I see it a lot with math expressions, mostly because there is some vocabulary and some methods that is not familiar, right? Like we grew up learning math a certain way. And when you don't often see things that are familiar to you, like we're all looking for something to hold on to, like there's the carry and the 10, or right now they're borrowing, like we're looking for something that's familiar. And when we don't see anything familiar, we're oftentimes confused. And we feel like this is just a totally different language, which leads to the frustration, the intimidation, the worry, so on and so forth. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. So these are some of the feelings that I think our parents are encountering. And the more we can see it from their eyes, the more compassion we can have for them, right? Of recognizing it's not because they don't want to help. It's not because they actually believe that this math won't work. It's because there's underlying emotions or feelings there that are driving more than sometimes the logic of it. So we're just going to help educate. So here's some things that you can do to help. Okay. So the first one, and actually put in the chat anything that like resonated with you there. You're like, oh, I totally think our parents feel X. Okay. So I'd love to know if you're seeing this, if I'm on the right page here. Things we can do to help. One is we can share the learning trajectories. Okay, so a learning trajectory tells us how the math develops from maybe the beginning of my school year to the end of the school year, from beginning of kindergarten through the end of 12th grade. A lot of times we freak out, whether we're a teacher or a parent, because we don't understand the progression. So we think this is all it is. Like, you're making my kid draw pictures to do long division. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, the numbers are going to get, up into double digit divisors, and we're going to get remainders, and we're going to start having to divide with decimals. And like, we can't draw a picture for all that, folks. So all they know is what they're seeing come home of. They have to draw pictures and pictures and pictures. They don't see the learning trajectory. They don't know that this is a very small piece of the bigger picture. All right. And so oftentimes I'm going to share with you this inquiry learning path, right? It's in your teacher's guide too. It's, if you're in the old version, it's Roman numeral page 18, I believe. If you're in the new version, it's I8, I7, somewhere in there. It's in the very beginning of your teacher's guide. Okay. So, but either way, the inquiry learning path helps them to know where we're going. So when I was in the classroom and even coaching, I would sit down with parents at parent teacher conferences, and I would have the learning path with me at parent teacher conferences. I wanted them to see the trajectory and say, so here is where your child is at on the path. They're nowhere near the end yet. Okay. No, we're not going to make them draw pictures for the rest of their life, but here's where it's at in the big scheme of things and why it's important right now. Okay, so just helping educate them on that is going to be really helpful. So we're going to share the inquiry path. I'll show you that. We're going to share the progression of algorithms. We're going to share the family letters. I'll tell you more. And we're going to share the research and math background. Okay, so especially if you're getting some parents that are just really, butting heads with you, and they're really frustrated, or you're really frustrated, whichever, these things are things that we can share to help educate. Okay. So here's the inquiry learning path. So the inquiry learning path is over here on the left. Again, you have this image in your teacher's edition in the front of it. I would make a copy of it to send home and or do it at parent teacher conferences, back to school night, right? These are the times that we're sharing this. And I share this because it's important for them to know that this is not how we were taught. Okay, so we were taught drill and kill, a lot of memorization, Iowa test of basic skills, and in our brain, it worked for us. Okay, so we're like, why are we changing it? It worked for me. And then I'd argue, but did it really? Because those are the same people that are passing the tip, right? They're like, oh, no, I'm not good at math. They're making jokes about it. They would say in front of you, in front of their children, my kids are bad at math. It's okay. They've got the math gene like me, right? Like, so did it really work for us? Okay, or did it work for us based on the careers we were preparing for? So we were preparing for careers in which weren't really motivated or driven by computers. Okay, so we were still doing a lot of that calculation and stuff by hand or by memory. And so much of our world has changed now, right? So we are preparing these kids for a different future than the future we were being prepared for. So that's why our instruction also has to change. So if I look here, phase one, remember, is that student generated. It's an inquiry based. It's really a formative assessment. Like, I'm going to throw something out there because I want to see what kids intuitively would do with a problem. They're going to be faced with a lot of problems in their life. Okay, and not everyone's going to be there to walk them step by step through it. So I want them to encounter a little bit of a wall so that they feel like, okay, but what would I do? I don't know, but how could I start? What might I do? Okay, so we're going to do this inquiry start. Then we lead them into that phase two, which is research-based methods. These are methods in the middle. This is where you're going to see these methods here that are on this algorithm sheet. Okay, these are the research-based methods that they progress. Okay, so we start with some manipulative work, but we really move them to these concrete drawings where they can see all of the quantity. And then we say, okay, now let's introduce some of these other methods that all are transferable. They all are what is the word I'm looking for? They can generalize to larger numbers. Okay, so you're not going to see things like lattice multiplication, and there's other methods, right? But you're not going to see those in expressions because one, they're not very research based. Number two, they're not generalizable. And number three, they're not connected to place value. Okay, so if they don't meet all the criteria, you're not going to find them there. But all of these are important. So I show mom and dad, like here, phase two is where now we're going to explore some of these various methods. For me and my grade, our grade is responsible for, let's just say, these two. Okay, but I want you to see, mom and dad, that by the time they get to fifth grade, they're over here. They're doing that common method that you and I grew up with. Okay, but what we're trying to get them to know is that mental math of understanding what the numbers mean. And that's why we're over here right now. But I'm not keeping them forever. And in fact, even in this grade, I'm going to release some kids over here. We're going to introduce it, but only if kids can defend it do they get to stay there. But if they don't even know what those numbers mean, we're going back to the drawings. Okay, so phase two is really exploring some of those different methods, introducing it, teaching them explicitly, etc. Phase three is formal methods. Okay, this is where I'm like, okay, now go practice it. Build procedural fluency. Johnny is practicing method A. Sarah's practicing method B. Now we just have to build fluency. We have to be able to do it with ease. Okay, I have to quickly know the next step. Okay, that's procedural fluency. And I could be all over the board. I have some kids that are doing it here, some kids that are doing it here, okay, so on and so forth. So this would be like the workbook. This is personal math trainer. This is where homework comes in. Okay, we've already done the comparing and contrasting. I've already shared with Jacob that really, Jacob, he's still struggling with maybe X, Y, and Z. I want him to stick with this method for now until he really gets a good handle on it. I'm not pushing him to the shortcut method because the shortcut method isn't necessarily right. It's just not where he's at. He can still meet my objective and maintain understanding down here. Okay, so I'm going to explain that. Then we're going to say, well, in phase four, then we maintain fluency, which is the remembering side of the homework. It's when we do our daily routines and our quick practice. So there is even a phase four. But notice, did you hear what I'm saying? I'm telling mom and dad, like, here's where they're at, and here's where they will end up by the time they leave elementary school. Okay, so it's okay. We're going to get them there, but we're going to make sure we go slow to go fast. So you're here. Don't worry. We're not going to make them draw pictures forever, but here's why it works. Okay, so that's the inquiry path. I always share it. We share that this ladder over here is the ladder of supports. It's what offers scaffolds. We're saying that, your child might be over here, but they need the scaffold of a hundreds chart. So my job as a teacher is to make sure they have the tools they need to still be able to access this math. Your child doesn't know their multiplication facts. We're still working on that. But while we're learning, let's say double-digit multiplication, one of their scaffolds is going to be a multiples chart or, whatever. Okay. Which means some kids, mom and dad, come in at phase three. I've got second graders who come in and already know how to ungroup. Borrow is what we called it, right? So mom and dad, it is borrow. We're going to call it ungrouping. Because really we're ungrouping. We're not borrowing anything. We're breaking something down. We're decomposing. We're composing. We're grouping. We're regrouping. We're ungrouping. Okay, so that's the words that we're using because it really more characterizes what we're doing, right? So you might have, because you taught over summer break how to do subtraction with ungrouping. But notice the learning path goes both directions. So just because they come in with a formal method, my job to make sure they really understand it is to take them down a couple notches to make sure that they can draw it, defend it, reason with it. They can build it. They can draw quantity models. They can use blocks, etc. Once they show me they truly understand it, they have concrete understanding, by all means, they can stick with their fluent method. Okay, but we want to make sure that they really have depth behind maybe a procedure. So if you look here, I have here inquiry path, the learning progressions, the algorithms. So if you need a copy of the learning path, just say, learning path in the comments. If you want this one pager that's the accessible algorithms, these are the algorithms for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We take kids through all of these for each grade it's applicable for. So even in kindergarten, you're introducing the quantity model, right? You're doing circle drawing. So that would be your part of the conversation. First grade, you continue quantity drawings, but you also introduce show all totals. Okay, so there's parts of it belong to each of us. But even in fourth grade, we go back to the quantity model, and then we go to each one of these subsequent numeric methods, right? So if you want that one pager, you feel free to put it in the chat, just say accessible algorithms, okay? The next one I said was family letters. So don't forget, I'm gonna be putting some tips here in the group, but don't forget that the family letters are in the student book, and I have a quick video to show you all the places you can find them. But guys, you have to send this home, and you can't send it home just at the beginning of the year. You need to send it home timely. When I had my like back to school meetings or whatever, I would tell parents, like, I know that I'm going to send home a lot of papers. And if you're like me as a parent, most of them just get checked, right? Because there's just too many. There's just too much stuff for me to manage and hold on to. Mom and dad, when you see this paper with the green outline, don't throw it away. I'm going to give you a separate folder that says math at home, and I want you to put that paper in there, because every piece of homework your child's going to do in this next 16 lessons, this paper is going to help you if you get stuck. Okay, so this piece of paper is pretty darn important. And it's going to have vocabulary. It's going to explain the methods. And many times it explains the research, right? So the family letters are pretty important. I think I have here, let me just look really quickly. Yeah, so if you look here, this is what's important to know is if you're using the California version of Math Expressions, you have an icon on your resource page on Think Central that has all the multilingual family letters. I don't know if everyone knows this exists, but you have English and you have Spanish that come just like, you know, whatever, it comes for everyone, I think in their student book. But then you have all, like you have Cantonese and Vietnamese and Chinese and I can't even remember all the languages, but they translate them into a lot of different languages. So you have those family letters to send home. If you're in the 2018 copyright, you're going to find those in the Parents Place icon on your resources. Okay, so you can see here multi-family letters. Oh, here it is: Hmong, Filipino, traditional Chinese, Arabic, Spanish, English. Like you've got like a whole list. Okay, so that's where all of those family letters are at. So if you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so look here. I'm on Think Central. Most people don't know this, but you're going to click the word resources. That's the very best way to do it. So if you don't see it here in your main icons, that's okay. You're going to click the word resources. And if you click the word resources, you can click in, and this gives you all the materials you actually have access to. I tend to filter by my grade level, and then I'm looking. So I'm in 2018 right now. You're looking for this Parents Place right here. Okay, when you click on that, guess what? Your kids have that icon when they log into their Think Central account. So you can show mom and dad like back to school night, like if you're stuck, go here. Okay, so like if I have a first grade mom or dad, I can go into first grade, fourth grade. Let's click fourth grade. Here's all the things, mom and dad, that are going to really help. The glossary, which I'm going to tell you more about. Unit overview. Okay, so this tells them kind of what's happening in the unit. Here's your family letters in all the various languages. The math background is the other one. So I've had some tough parents in the past, the ones that want to argue with me about best research practices. This is a great way to go. Like, let me just give you the research from Dr. Fusen. This is in your teacher's guide before every unit, but they also have it as principal. So I just send it home for those parents of like, hey, you know, like, just want you to be well informed with this, and this might help our conversation when we get to meet, etc. The math background that you and I 100% are reading, right? Before you teach a unit, say, yes, Shannon, I'm doing that. Okay, it has it here for parents. Just download it and send it home. This is the, like, you know, they have like the Idiot's Guide to Finances, Idiot's Guide to Cards. That's what this is. In my opinion, if it's here, it's really important. Do not skip it. Okay, but I think it does even a better job of teaching the concept than the family letters, and it explains why they're doing it. Okay, so this is the teaching the teachers, but there's no reason we shouldn't be able to also send that home to our parents. Again, that's in your Parents Place. Okay, so that research and math background is going to really help you there. So let's come back here. Okay, I'm going to stop for just a minute. Let's see if we have, yes, I'm going to talk about that stuff exactly. So I'm going to mention that too with the glossary. It's so important. All right, let me come back here, friends. Okay, so put something in the chat. If you're here, put it in the comments, like something that you need, you want, an aha for you. Okay, I know this is a lot of info. Welcome. Hopefully it helps. Okay, so we said we're going to help our parents by sharing the learning trajectories. We're going to share the inquiry path, the progression of algorithms. We're going to share those family letters in a timely manner. And then if we need to, we can share that research and background. Okay. Help with vocabulary. Vocabulary, the whole I borrowed, and we're going to say, actually, we ungrouped. Okay. We're going to say, You might say add-ins. In the primary grades, we're going to say partners. Okay, so just in general vocabulary, and as a, like maybe as a teacher, you're used to it because you teach that grade level. But let's say like a second grade teacher, when's the last time you had to define a scalene triangle? Okay, so it's not that our parents don't know, it's that they haven't had to know for a long time. Okay, so we're going to help them with that. So here's the thing. So Stephanie just shared this in the chat. She's right on. So in the back of your student books, do I have one? Let me see if I have one. I think I do. Okay, so in the back of the, in your student books, this is a California grade 1. Okay, you have these orange pages in the back and it has the glossary. Okay, but guess what? You have one, the exact same one in volume 1 and in volume 2. So my suggestion is tear out, like Stephanie's saying, tear out that glossary in your volume 1, tear out the glossary in your volume 2, staple it together, send one copy home in that at-home math folder that you're telling parents don't throw away, and then keep the other one in your students' math folder at school. Okay, so that glossary is going to be really helpful when they're helping kids with homework and the homework is calling it something that the parents like, no idea, right? So very quick story. I was in my kids' Taekwondo class one time, a couple years ago now. And my children's school district also uses math expressions. And I'm sitting next to a mom who doesn't know what my job is. And she's complaining about this homework and her kid comes up and is like, Mom, I don't understand how to answer. Number 2 was like a first grader. And she's like, I don't know. I have no idea. She's like, and then she knew I did math. She just didn't know I did math expressions. And so she's like, I don't know. Ask Mrs. Keebler. She can help you. And so they showed me their piece of math homework and it said, explain how to use the counting on method to solve. So it was like one of those like stretch your thinking types of questions, but it was supposed to be a constructed response. And I said, did you happen to get the family letter for this? Right. And the mom's like, no, I always just throw those away. I'm like, well, that's going to help. So I'm like trying to educate her, like, don't throw it away. It actually would help you with this problem. But counting on, and I explained it. She's like, what the heck is counting on? So these are words that we know because they're just a part of what we do, but it is not normal to know those words. Okay. So share the glossary, educate. Okay. So share learning expectations for homework. In general, I say the number of grades that 10 minutes per grade, right? Or the number of minutes per grade. So if you're in 4th grade, I mean, you could spend up to 10 minutes, right? In 4th grade, up to 30 minutes. It just depends on what your school policy is. Some people don't even have a homework policy, but once you go past that, like I'm really a believer of 10, 15 minutes. You do not need more practice than that. Okay, if you're spending more time than that, it's probably frustrational. It's not at the independent level. We're doing more harm than we're doing good. So I say just for 10 minutes, I want you to do, and I'll pick the problems. I want you to for sure get numbers 2, 7, and 9. So mom and dad, when I circle numbers 2, 7, and 9, that means those are really the problems I'd like for them to finish within that time frame. If they want to complete the rest of the sheet, by all means, they can complete it. But I'm only really looking for number 2, 7, and 9. I just want to see, can they do this independently? Right. And if they're spending more time than 10 minutes on it, would you just write me a note on the homework? Don't get in a fight. Don't do that. It's not helpful to anybody. That tells me they weren't ready for it at home. If they can't do it at home, it's okay. That gives me the information I need, right? But you have to share that because mom and dad are like, I want more. I want them to do the front and the back and like 3 more pages on Teachers Pay Teachers. Oh gosh, I've got a life. I want my kids to like learn things other than math, okay? So I want them to take a deep breath. I don't want them to hate it, mom or dad. So share those expectations. All right, we're getting there. We're doing great. Okay. Share how to help documents. So if you want this, so we have inquiry path, accessible algorithms, we have the family letter, we have the helping with math at home. So I have this handout. I'm happy to give it to you. It's a 2-page document that helps mom and dad at home. It says, here's the questions. As at home, mom and dad, I don't need your kids to get it right. I don't need you to be the teacher and to fix it. And I don't even need you to teach them. You can, because we're partners in this by all means, but really, I just need you to coach. That's way more helpful. So when you're helping your kid and you're getting started and they are frustrated because they don't know what to do, instead of doing it for them or you getting frustrated or, posting it on Facebook about how terrible new math is, just coach them by asking these questions. That'll help them to be a self-starter and to accomplish something and feel good about it. Okay, so there's like when they're working, here's some questions. When they're reflecting, here's some questions. When they're responding, here's some questions. And then on the back of this document, I have some websites that are just good general info for parents about math anxiety and so on. Okay. The last thing I had here for y'all is sharing exemplars. Okay, so your performance tasks have exemplars. So you have like performance tasks for unit 1. You don't have to do these, but what I like is I like to do them at least like every other unit, just to help show mom and dad where their child is headed, where they're at and where they're headed. So you can see I just copied and pasted one of these, but it'll show you what is a 4 score, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Because sometimes mom and dad are like, well, they got it right. Like, look, they have all the answers right. I'm like, right, but they showed no work. They didn't do any explanations. And mom and dad, but they got it right. Okay, so let me show you the rubric and how we're helping students to communicate effectively, to make sure they have an audience, to reason, so on and so forth. This is what your child produced. Here would be a 4 response. So my job is to help get your kid to that 4 response. Do you see places where we might be able to help them at home with that too? Okay, conversation. Right? So it just helps us to kind of put in perspective. If all we ever see is our own kids' work, we just think that that's what's expected. Like that's what they're supposed to be doing. But if we don't see where it could be from another grade level student, hence an exemplar, okay, then we don't really get why our student is getting the grades that they're getting or the marks that they're getting, right? All right. Well, that was a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but I hope it was helpful to you. So tonight we talked about parent support, how we can help our parents. Right now we're doing all those meet and greets and back to school times. This is the time to really partner with our parents and to bring them along and help them. Remember, all those emotions. We're frustrated, we're confused, we're intimidated. Okay, so our job is before they start to feel those feelings, how can we support them and counteract those feelings with some of these materials? Right? So you've got a lot of support and expressions. If there's anything that I just showed you that you feel like you would like to have, just put it in the chat and I will make sure we DM that link to you. And we'll call it good from there. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I hope you are enjoying the nice warm days before we head into fall. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.